Part 1. The Call. It had been 6 years since Emma died. 6 years of silence. 6 years of my mother leaving dinner plates out for someone who would never sit at the table again. 6 years of my father fixing the same piece of fence she used to climb over, as if expecting her bare feet to swing over it again any day now. And 6 years of me surviving. Emma was the golden child, the cheerleader, the smile, the light. I was the shadow that followed her, always a little too quiet, a little too awkward. When the lake took her, when she slipped on that mossy rock and disappeared beneath the surface, a part of my family drowned with her. We never found the body. People told us it was better that way. No final image to haunt us. No casket filled with weightless memories. Just water. Just echoes. I learned to live without her. Mostly. Until last Tuesday, when I got a call from Emma's phone. I stared at the screen, my thumb trembling above the answer button. It couldn't be real. I'd never deleted her contact. I couldn't. Her face, frozen at 16, smiled up at me like she was still waiting for me to return her hoodie or sneak her candy at midnight. My heart beat in my ears. I answered. At first, only static. And then, Jess. It was her voice. Breathless. Soft. Familiar in the worst way. I didn't know what to say. My throat dried out. I thought maybe it was someone playing a cruel joke, maybe using an AI voice clone, or maybe I had finally cracked. But then she said something that only Emma would have known. The frog you buried. Behind the shed. You cried so much you made mud. My knees gave out, and I sat down on the cold kitchen tile. Emma. A pause. I can come home now, she said. Right? My mom dropped the plate when I told her. It shattered like a gunshot. My dad looked up from his newspaper like I'd slapped him. No one said anything for a long time. Then my mother whispered, she's coming home, like it was a prayer. By that evening, they had pulled out Emma's old blankets. My mom remade her bed. My dad took the swing off the tree because he said it looked too childish now. I just stood in the hallway, staring at the front door. I didn't believe it. Not really. But I wanted to. And then, at 11:08 p.m., the doorbell rang. I opened the door. It was her. Emma. Or something that wore her face. She stood on the porch barefoot, her skin pale but clean. Her hair was damp, her eyes a little too wide. She looked preserved. Not aged. Not changed. Like she had been sealed in time. My mother gasped behind me and ran to pull her into a hug. My father stood rooted, his mouth hanging open. And me? I backed away. I don't know why. My instinct screamed, but my heart screamed louder. Emma didn't blink. Her gaze followed me the whole time. At dinner, she barely ate. Said she wasn't hungry. Just smiled and asked about the town. About school. About the neighbors. Her voice was just like I remembered, but a half-second too slow. Like she was mimicking herself. Remember the cabin? She asked me suddenly. The one in the woods? I nodded. We used to play there. You said it had secrets. I still know them, she whispered. That night, I couldn't sleep. I went to the kitchen for water and heard something, a wet, dragging sound from the hallway. I peeked around the corner. Emma was standing in front of the hallway mirror, staring at her reflection, not moving. I almost called her name, but something held me back. She wasn't blinking. She wasn't breathing. Then she smiled at her own reflection and whispered something I couldn't hear. The mirror fogged slightly. I backed away and went upstairs without a sound. The next morning, Mom made pancakes, Emma's favorite. But she just stared at the plate. I don't eat this anymore, she said, calmly. What do you eat now? My mom asked, trying to laugh. Emma smiled without humor. I'm not sure, but I'll know it when I smell it. I wanted to ask her where she'd been, how she'd survived, why her phone had called me but not the police. But I couldn't, because deep down, I was terrified of the answers. Part 2. Something in her eyes. For the next few days, Emma stayed with us. She didn't explain where she had been, and my parents didn't push. They were just happy. Blindly, desperately happy. Like she had never drowned. Like she had never vanished beneath the surface. But I couldn't fake it like them. Something was wrong. She didn't sleep. At least, I never saw her go into her room at night. Instead, I'd find her standing in strange places, the garage, the laundry room, once even the crawl space under the stairs, just standing, like she was listening to something. She had no scars, no bruises. Her hair looked freshly washed every day, though I never saw her touch the bathroom. Her nails were always clean. Her skin never tanned. It was like she existed just outside of life. Close enough to touch, but not close enough to age. One morning, I found her on the porch staring into the woods. There's a man in the trees, she said flatly. What? She pointed. He watches sometimes. But he doesn't come near. He's scared of the house. I looked. Nothing. Emma, I said carefully, are you sure you're okay? She turned to me, and I swear to God, for just a second, her eyes were the color of lake water. That murky, greenish blue. And then they weren't. I'm better than okay, she said. I'm back. That night, I locked my door for the first time in years. I dreamed of water. Cold, thick water flooding my lungs. And hands pulling at my ankles. When I woke up, gasping, I swore I could still hear dripping. I sat up, turned on the lamp, and found Emma sitting at the foot of my bed, just smiling. I used to do this when you had bad dreams, she said. No, you didn't, I whispered. She tilted her head. Are you sure? And then she stood and walked away, her bare feet making no sound on the floorboards. Not even a creak. Like she weighed nothing at all. Things got worse. The dog next door disappeared. The Thompsons' golden retriever, Benny. I remember Emma used to love that dog. When I asked her about it, she smiled. He barked too much. I think he's quiet now. My heart sank. Later that day, I went around the back fence, into the trees, searching for Benny. Instead, I found a trail. A thin one, newly worn into the dirt. Not a path made by paws, but something dragged. A long streak of disturbed earth, disappearing deeper into the woods. At the end of it, a hole, freshly dug. And inside, something wrapped in Emma's old cheerleading jacket. Something wet. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. When I came back, Emma was waiting in the kitchen. You went looking for it, she said softly. I didn't answer. You think I'm not really her. I swallowed hard. I think. I don't know what I think. She stepped closer. I am her, Jess. I remember everything. The cabin. The frog grave. That time you broke your wrist, and I carried you back even though you were taller. I shook my head. That doesn't prove anything. That just proves you know about her. I am her, she said again. But her voice cracked, like static, like old tape. Like something was pretending. You're not, I said. She didn't speak to me again for 3 days. But the rest of the house changed. Lights flickered more. Mom started sleepwalking. Once, I found her trying to boil an empty pot of water, humming a lullaby Emma used to sing backwards. Dad got worse too, distracted, foggy. He kept asking me what day it was. Then he started calling me Emma. It was like the house had decided I wasn't needed anymore. I went to the police. They didn't believe me. Why would they? My dead sister came back and might have killed a dog. Doesn't make for a compelling report. They said Emma was probably in hiding after a traumatic event and just reappeared. They were happy for our family. But one officer lingered behind. Detective Rayner. Mid-50s. Gray beard. Sharp eyes. You said she drowned, he said to me privately. Yeah. We never found the body. He rubbed his chin. There was another case. Not far from here. 1992. Girl drowned. Came back 3 months later. Whole family was dead 2 weeks after. I froze. He handed me a card. Call me if things change. They changed that night. I woke up to my mother screaming. I ran downstairs and found her curled in the living room, staring at the wall. My dad was there too, holding her, confused and terrified. What happened? I asked. Mom pointed at the wall, at a line of wet footprints leading from the front door to the staircase. Bare. Human. But too long. Like someone had stood in the lake too long. Like the skin had softened. She came into our room, Mom whispered. She stood over the bed. She didn't blink. She just watched us. I turned to my father. He didn't say a word, but he didn't deny it. Later that night, I confronted her. Why are you doing this? I asked Emma. She was brushing her hair, slowly, carefully, each stroke deliberate. You're afraid of me, she said without turning. I don't even know what you are. She finally met my gaze in the mirror. I'm what came back when no one else did. I stepped closer. Emma drowned. She nodded. So what crawled out? She smiled, and for the first time, I saw her teeth. Not human. Not quite. Too many. Too small. Something inside me shattered. Part 3. The thing that followed her back. After that night, I started locking my door with furniture. A chair. A dresser. Even then, I didn't sleep much. I just listened. To the sound of floorboards shifting at 3 a.m. To the faint, slithering breaths outside my door. She never tried to come in. But she didn't have to. I could feel her. Like damp air in my lungs. Like fingers around my ankles in the dark. My parents got worse. Their memories were fading. One morning, Mom made a second-place setting for a third daughter. When I asked who she meant, she blinked like she was waking up and said, "You, of course." But it wasn't confusion. It was erasure, like the house, or something in it, was rewriting reality around Emma, like I was being replaced. I tried showing my dad the footprints from the night before, but they were gone, wiped clean. "I think you need rest, Jess," he said gently. "Maybe some time away. You don't remember what happened last night." He frowned. "Last night we had dinner. Emma played the piano. It was beautiful. She hasn't touched that piano in years." "I'm serious," he said, sharper now. "Don't talk like that about your sister." I left the room shaking. When I passed the piano later, the keys were covered in moss. Thin green strands crawling over the wood like veins. I didn't touch it. That evening, I called Detective Rayner. He picked up on the first ring. "You were right," I said. "I usually am," he replied. "I need help. She's not my sister. She's something else." He was quiet for a long time. Then, "Meet me tomorrow. Bring anything that belongs to her from before she died. Anything that still has her scent. We're going to try something." At 4:12 a.m., I woke up to someone crying outside my window. Soft. Familiar. I opened the curtains and saw myself, standing barefoot in the yard. Pale. Soaked. Crying. Then it raised its head and smiled. I slammed the curtains shut. I didn't sleep again. I sat with a baseball bat, shaking until the sun rose. The next day, I snuck into Emma's old drawer and found one of her necklaces, a tiny silver pendant shaped like a wave. I took it and left the house quietly. Rayner was waiting at the diner. When he saw the necklace, he looked visibly relieved. "She drowned, you said?" he asked. "Yes. In the lake." He nodded slowly. "Then it's one of them." "One of what?" He didn't answer. Instead, he pulled out a worn leather book from his coat. Handwritten notes. Yellowed pages. He flipped to a section marked Reflections, then pointed to a line. "The returned walk like us. Talk like us. But they are hollow. And something else looks out from inside. They enter through death, but they stay through memory." He explained that sometimes, in places where death lingers too long, something old slips through. Not demons. Not ghosts. Just hunger. "They find grief," Rayner said. "They find homes where someone is missing, and they were the skin of the dead." I didn't ask how he knew all this. I didn't care. "What do we do?" He slid a folded piece of cloth across the table. Inside was a mirror. Small. Oval. Antique-looking. "Give this to her," he said. "Just once. Ask her to look. If she isn't what she claims, the glass will know." That night, I offered the mirror during dinner. "Hey, Em," I said, pretending to laugh. "You remember this old thing?" She looked at it, paused, then smiled. "Oh wow, I used to carry this everywhere, didn't I?" She reached for it and froze. Her hand trembled. "Emma," Mom asked, concerned. Emma dropped the mirror. It hit the floor and didn't shatter, but the glass warped. For just a moment, I saw something inside it. Not Emma's face. Something with sunken eyes and a grin that went too wide. Emma hissed. Literally hissed. Then stood and walked away, her hands clenched at her sides. Later that night, she came to my door. Not knocking. Not asking. Just breathing on the other side. A low wet inhale. Then exhale. Over and over. Then, "Jess." I held my breath. "I think I'm sick. I need help." I didn't answer. "I think I brought something back," she whispered. "Something that followed me out." Then silence. Until she giggled. Not like Emma. Not like anyone. The next morning, I found my father sitting on the edge of his bed, unmoving. His mouth was full of lake water. Not just wet, full. Dripping from his lips. Leaking from his nose. His eyes were wide open. He didn't blink. Didn't breathe. I called 911. By the time they arrived, the water was gone. He was awake. Confused. Said he'd just nodded off. But I saw the look in his eyes. He wasn't all there anymore. I met Rayner again that afternoon. "We need to cleanse the house," he said. "She's nesting. Feeding off their love. Their memories. You need to break that bond." "How?" He handed me a set of instructions, crude drawings, and Latin phrases. "We burn something she wore before death. Sprinkle salt in every room. Smash every reflective surface. And whatever you do, don't let her speak your full name." "Why?" "Names are doors. If she has yours, she can wear you next." I went home. I was ready. But the house wasn't. The walls were damp. The floor pulsed beneath my feet. And Emma was waiting at the top of the stairs, her head tilted, her eyes shining like broken glass. "You're not supposed to fight it," she whispered. "But you always were the difficult one." Part 4. The house that remembered her. I stepped inside, clutching the pendant and the salt Rainer gave me. The floor felt soft, wet, like stepping on soaked carpet. Except it wasn't carpet. It was wood. Or used to be. The house wasn't dying, it was changing. For her. Every light flickered with a heartbeat rhythm. Shadows no longer fell where they should. Walls rippled like they were breathing. And worst of all, the photos. Every picture frame now held her. Emma. No baby pictures. No family shots. Just her standing alone, in places we'd never been. Forest lakes. Empty roads. And in every one, her eyes were open wide, her mouth parted slightly like she was humming to herself. Something had overwritten the past. I started with her room. I sprinkled the salt first, drawing the circle like Rainer instructed. Then I pulled out the necklace she wore the day she drowned. It was faded and crusted with lake residue. I lit a match and dropped it onto the pendant. The metal screamed. Literally, I heard it scream. The fire hissed blue. The curtains trembled. The wallpaper blistered. Emma howled from somewhere downstairs. And I ran. In the hallway, the mirror I had covered was uncovered again. It had changed. No longer showing my reflection, it showed a different hallway. One made of water. Slick walls. Figures moving inside. As I watched, a hand pressed against the other side of the glass. It was hers. But wrong. Too thin. Too long. With webs between the fingers. It tapped once. Twice. Then cracked the glass from the inside. I smashed it before it could finish. I moved from room to room, salting doorways, burning scraps of her clothing. But with each step, the house fought back. At one point, the floorboards warped beneath my feet and opened, like a mouth. I nearly fell in. The smell rising from below was lake water and rot. In the kitchen, every drawer slammed open and shut. The fridge oozed with black liquid. The digital clock spun backwards, and the salt on the counter boiled in its bowl. I made it to the living room and turned. Emma was there, smiling, wearing my skin. It wasn't perfect. A mimic. A puppet stretched wrong. My nose was too sharp. My eyes too big. My mouth not mine. She spoke in my voice. "Mom and Dad say you're not well. You're scaring them." I backed away. She followed. "I can take it from here, Jess. You've done enough. They miss me, not you. That's why I was allowed back." "What do you mean?" I hissed. She smiled, cracking the skin she wore. "There's always one door open. And grief is the key." I ran to my parents' room. They were there. Sitting upright. Silent. Pale. Salt on the floor sizzled and vanished. Emma's voice spoke from behind me and through them. "You made it hard," she said. "You remembered too much." My mother looked at me, her eyes full of water. "My sweet girl," she whispered, but I don't think she meant me. "I'm your daughter." I screamed. Emma stepped into the room. "You were." I tried the Latin words Rainer gave me, shouting them. Emma laughed. Old words. Dead words. Just like her. And then she changed. Her skin peeled away like paper soaked in rain. Beneath, a thing made of water and teeth. No bones. No real form. Just the idea of a girl. A mask worn too long. Her face collapsed inward. Just a blank, glistening oval with a mouth that grew as it opened. She lunged. I threw the last handful of salt straight into the center of her face. She screamed. The sound shattered windows, shook walls, tore light fixtures down. Her body writhed like it was being yanked backward through a drain. I kept chanting. I burned the last piece of her hoodie. The fire roared. The floor split. Water gushed up from the cracks, not just water, lake water. Mud. Fish bones. Things that should never be inside a house. She clutched at the walls, at the furniture, at me. And then gone. The house exhaled. Everything went still. I found my parents unconscious, but breathing. I called Rainer. He arrived an hour later, saw the damage, saw the fire. Said nothing. Just nodded. "She won't come back," he said. "Not now." "What was she?" I asked. Rainer shrugged. "We give them names to make them smaller. But names don't help. Sometimes, things just come back wrong." I stayed in a motel that night. Didn't sleep. Every puddle looked too deep. Every sound behind me too familiar. The next morning, I went back to check the house. It was clean. Too clean. No broken glass. No scorchwood. No salt. No moss. Nothing. And one new thing. A note. On my pillow. Written in my own handwriting. "You sent me back. But the lake remembers." Part 5. Where the water ends. Rainer told me not to go back to the lake. Places like that don't forget, he said. They hold on. But the note on my pillow changed everything. You sent me back. But the lake remembers. I couldn't ignore it. If the lake remembered her, maybe it remembered others too. Maybe it still held part of her. Or part of something else. So I went back. The air around the water felt wrong. Like breathing through cotton. No birds. No frogs. Just stillness. The surface of the lake was flat and black, like glass that had swallowed the sun. I stood at the edge where she fell all those years ago. The mossy rock was still there. Cracked now. Slick. I whispered her name. No answer. I whispered it again, this time, my voice breaking. Emma. A ripple. Just one. Then silence. Then a hand. Pale. Slender. Reaching up from the surface like it wanted mine. I took a step back. The hand curled, a finger beckoning. I didn't move. Then the voice came. Jess. Soft. Wet. Not hers. Not really. Come see what I saw. Behind me, I heard footsteps. Rainer. No, he said. You don't talk to it. You don't give it shape. It knew my name. They always do, he said. Because part of you is already in there. He handed me a bundle. Inside, a small, clay jar sealed with wax and twine. What is it? Final rites. You drop it into the lake. You don't look back. Ever. You understand. I nodded. But I hesitated. What if she's still in there? Rainer looked at me. And for the first time, I saw real pain in his eyes. She's not. I walked to the edge. The hand was still there. Still waiting. I held the jar tight. Whispers rose from the water. Not just Emma, dozens of voices. Children. Adults. All saying the same word. Stay. My fingers shook. The wax on the jar felt warm. Like it wanted to come undone. The voices grew louder. My name. Over and over. Jessica. 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 And then hers. Emma's real voice. Jess. I'm cold. I screamed and threw the jar. It broke the surface with a pop. The lake sucked it down like a throat. Instantly, the water frothed, boiling and writhing. Steam rose. The surface cracked open like shattered glass. Screams. So many screams. Not of pain or of rage. The sky darkened. Trees bent inward. The rock at my feet crumbled. And then, silence. All at once. When I opened my eyes, the lake was gone. Drained. Empty. A muddy pit filled with broken bones, twisted roots, and something large curled at the bottom, like a shell. Or a nest. Or a mouth. Rainer pulled me back just as the ground started to close. The earth filled itself like it was healing. And then it was over. No more lake. No more whispers. Just earth. Weeks passed. My parents slowly came back to themselves. They didn't remember everything, just fragments. My mother cried over photos she didn't recognize. My father started planting flowers again. The house became a house again. I stayed for a while. Just to be sure. And when I finally left, I thought I could move on. But grief is a strange thing. It doesn't leave. It just changes shape. Some nights, I still hear her voice in dreams. Not monstrous. Not evil. Just lonely. Asking me to remember. Last week, I got a text from an unknown number. It just said, "The lake is deeper than you think." And attached, a photo of me, standing at the edge. But I was alone that day. Wasn't I?